Hi, my name is John Poole again. This is my narrative for our assignment with the effective lecture. The topic that I decided to do was actually on HIV, bringing HIV to the light is what I would title it. Um, Something that's very passionate, that I feel very passionate about. I would start off the lecture with the introduction. Um, there's a story about a child that had random issues, health issues, for about 8 months, and they were going to different specialists. So I would use that one as the opening for the lecture, so the students can kind of relate to it. Because everyone goes to the doctor, everyone thinks that they have a common cold or the flu or something common, and then using that story of the 19-year-old that found out that it was actually HIV kind of sets the mood for the lecture, kind of gets the eyes open, and that relation the students can relate with that one because the person that got it was younger, the students are younger and they can relate. Um, After that, we're starting off with the introduction. Moving on, we would do an introduction to STDs just in general, the different types that they are, what they are, the difference between the STD and the STI, the different types of STDs that you can get and range them on of gonorrhea, chlamydia, syphilis, moving on until we get to HIV. And then we would do the HIV standing transition into what it actually is, the definition from Webster and the medical definition, how they're different and similar at the same time. Addressing that and moving on into the origins of the virus, of the controversial beginning of it, where the rumors, addressing the rumors about the beginning, whether it started in France or whether it was started with the government or whether it started in the homosexual lifestyle, bringing just the origins into the virus and what communities were immediately affected by that. How fast did the virus spread? And fast meaning over the countries, um, over the continents. How fast was it able to affect so many people? After that, we would transition into the societal efforts of it. The society's part, where this is where more of the charts. I have attached some reference sites that I would use to create posters, charts, different statistics and references for the students because I feel like that's how they would be connected with this one. It's just relating it to them, how it can affect them, or how relatable it is to the students. So that would be something to keep their attention, or their connection, with their engagement with the lecture. After the origins, the transition, we would go into society stigma, which would be how HIV affects communities today. What is the effects of the virus on the simple community, the at home community, the communities at large, and the difference between the communities, whether it's the African American, the Caucasian, the Hispanic, and then there's the homosexual and the heterosexual way that HIV affects this community. So, addressing all of those, the fear tactic that has been placed on it. Um, then transitioning that stigma into how it actually affects a person. So we go from putting HIV from a virus to actually putting a face to it, and we try to see exactly how that person is affected on the inside, not from the virus as far as the body weakening from the virus itself, but just on the emotional side, the stress and the strain that that puts on a person, um, going forward. And then after that, we would do another transition into the medicines or the medications, medication segment, which there's a list of the current HIV meds, HIV/AIDS meds that they do have available. So I would pass that out as a worksheet or use that, and on that chart, there's a different type of because there's different types of HIV strains which will be addressed. The different types of medicines. that those will be addressed as well. There are approximately, I think it's about 23, and they're working on 2 more at the time. So just showing that the progress from when they first started to where they are now, with the efforts of trying to contain the virus. Then dealing with the medication dilemma, as has been known to be the recent development of one of the HIV drugs has the reputation now that it can prevent HIV from being spread if the person's at risk. So addressing that and showing the methods that come up for the students or for a person that's at risk for HIV, that would be addressed in this section. And then the last transition, which would be to the growth of what happens with HIV if it's left untreated, which is transitioning into AIDS. So it will state what AIDS is, how the medications affect it, what the medications do to address AIDS, whether it's to bring it up, bring it down, to contain it, and overall, what are the statistics for the viruses together, and addressing whether HIV and AIDS are the same thing or if they're completely different. And this part where we address more of the rumors, and just explaining in more specific values what the viruses are, because there's a lot of misconceptions. So then we'll transition into the closing. The closing would just be the overall, it's a recap of everything, the stigma, the medications, the updates to the medications, the update to the new drug that can supposedly prevent it from being spread, the final comments and thoughts on it, and referencing that it has no specific look. One of the statistics that stood out to me was that 1 in 6 are currently living with HIV and have no signs, no symptoms, and they're unaware of it. So as a student, knowing that in a bigger class or on a college campus, it brings attention and actually makes you think, what, have you done anything to get at risk, or maybe get tested. So I think that this one is really good for student engagement, is something that the students should be able to relate to. And although this one, I don't believe, as the book reference, being kind of a comedian with this one, because it's kind of a serious matter, so I didn't see many opportunities throughout the lecture to do a joke or anything like that. But stories and illustrations with the worksheets, the statistics, those things can relate for the students, so they'll be able to truly engage and feel relatable to the material as well. So that is the narrative for my lecture and how I would address the students or the lecture for HIV.